Hey, folks, virtual neighbors and acquaintances. Got a topic that's probably not only country dividing, but world dividing. It's very serious. No, it's not serious, not serious at all. But it does have a profound impact on many people, um, depending on the subjects of whom you're directing this topic towards and who you may be directing the topic away from. What is your favorite band? And when you fall in love with that band, is that the lineup that represents the band to everybody, or is it just you? It's a tough call. At least sometimes it's not a tough call at all. Sometimes it's incredibly easy. um I mean, just, I'm not going to go into graphic and vivid detail with dates and names and everything. I'm just going to like throw out some bands and maybe a couple of the names associated with the bands, and we'll see where we wind up. Boston, after Brad Delp passed away, were they actually Boston, or was that just a Tom Scholl's vanity project? That I'm really curious about because I love Boston, but Brad Delp, yeah, okay, he may not have written the songs, but he made them sound like Boston. Was it Boston without Brad Delp? Um, Johnny Edwards replaces Lou Graham in Foreigner. Was it the same? I don't think so. Maybe some of you do. Maybe that was your favorite period of Foreigner. I don't know. How about bands in name only? Um, if you go back, or if you're really interested in music history, you youngins, or if you just have a passing interest in some of the classic rock songs from the Zombies, you'll know that after they released like singles and they charted with singles like She's Not There, they actually weren't going anywhere in the UK. They broke up. The Zombies broke up before Odyssey and Oracle came out, I think, in album form in the US and blew up. And then the label that released Odyssey and Oracle scrambled to find bands that they could call the Zombies to put out on tour, to tour behind this record that had multiple hits on it. Dare I say, Time of the Season. Everybody knows Time of the Season. It was huge. It was a monster. And there were no Zombies. Rod Argent had already gone and formed Argent, and Colin Blunstone was already doing other projects. And, all the band members just, they weren't there. Like, she wasn't there. Well, they're not there. It turns out, like, one of those, on a side note, and this is very on a side note, one of those fake zombie bands turned into ZZ Top. Anyway, that's for like 3 videos down the line. So there are some bands that are iffy. I mentioned some bands that, were they really those bands? And I didn't even get to the all-time classic Yes. I mean, who are Yes? Who is Yes to you? I mean, that they have a lot of success and a lot of non-success. They have a lot of band lineups. Sometimes they have 2 lineups out at once, doing 2 different, completely different tours, playing 2 different kinds of music. It's nutty. A glaring success at losing main people in the band is Pink Floyd, one of my favorite bands. They did it twice. They lost Syd Barrett, their main songwriter, their lead guitar player, and their lead vocalist. Well, they lost him after an album and a couple of singles. He wasn't capable of continuing because he had his breakdown, and Roger Waters stepped in and became the lyricist, and not the front man, but the lyricist, and like sort of like the engine, the fire in the engine room for Pink Floyd after that. Although it took a long time for them to reach that position, once they did, they were a steaming locomotive. And then Roger Waters sort of had a meltdown slash blow up with David Gilmour, and then the band continued with David Gilmour as the face of the band. So Pink Floyd is one of those bands that was capable of losing two major players and still being a success. So, who's to say? I saw a band that was for a long time, for a long time. Um, the other night that I fell in love with a band. I'm not going to even name them because it's unfair for me to name this band because they are still, hopefully for them, for their sake, they're still on an upward trajectory after a major tragedy. But aside from losing their lead vocalist and sometimes lyricist and multi-instrumentalist, unfortunately, he passed away. They also lost, within the last few years, their lead guitar player. So it's vocalist, frontman, multi-instrumentalist, lyricist. Lead guitar player, violin player, keyboard player, and touring multi-instrumentalist. So out of 8 people in the band, I think at that point, eight main people, seven, 8, they lost at least half. Let's just say at least half the band. The one remaining person was one of the guys who initially formed the band a long time ago, back in the 90s. The other guy who formed the band with him left the band for one reason or another. It sounded to me as if there was trouble in paradise for the way the band was being run, but I don't know. I don't know the inside scoop. So you only have one guy left from a band that I loved. And there's also a guitar player, not the lead player. At least he wasn't the lead player. And the drummer. Is it the same band? Seeing them in concert, it was nice to see all of my fellow fans. That was the best part. That was the best part. Everybody talking the band up and getting behind them after the loss, the tragic loss of the front man, the man who drew me in, certainly, and the main driving force I felt of that band. Now, the bass player and main lyricist and founding father of the band is the one constant from the 1990s. Is it the same band? The reviews, the fan reviews across the board, of course, were glowing and positive, and I'm happy for them. And I'm ecstatic to see that band finally coming from the UK over to America like they were supposed to 4 years ago before COVID put the kibosh on that. I was happy that they finally made it. But did they really make it? That's a completely different band. Um, a lot of the same sounds for me, and this is just totally a personal opinion, which I'm going to get slammed for. I know it. But it was almost like seeing an excellent tribute band. And that hurts to say, and I'm going to get clobbered for it, in my opinion. And this is worth nothing. My opinion is not worth anything in this whole scenario here. In my opinion, after they lost all those members and then lost the lead, the front man, the lead vocalist, multi-instrumentalist, and co-lyricist, after they lost all those people, maybe they should have rebranded in some way. They still have the talent. They still have people who are desperate and happy and willing to give it a go, travel abroad, tour abroad to a country that is totally unaware of them for the most part, except for diehard fans. And I thought about this and I thought about this and I went to see the show and I was so happy that for the founding member, I was very happy for him. I was happy for the band because they were obviously enjoying themselves. I was happy for the audience who were loving the time they were having because they got to introduce their friends to one of their favorite, or if not their favorite band. But for me, for, and like I said, it's all personal. Your mileage and everybody else's mileage, and anybody who's watching this who is there with me's mileage, I'm sure it will vary greatly. They should have rebranded. They should have somehow been able to tie themselves to what they were and continued on and started the same path as a different version or a better version or something that somebody smarter than me would have to like come up with and say, this is what we're going to do. But I got the serious vibe after being a diehard fan, trying to convince. I used to run around trying to convince everybody, you've got to listen to this band. Everybody who is watching right now and has watched this far knows how obsessed I become with bands and trying to get people to listen to bands. And all I could think as I was watching this band play was, this is a tribute, a great one. Rebrand. And yes, I know it would be like taking a giant step backwards when you want to forge ahead, make your living doing what you love. You've worked so hard and it's taken so much time and you've had so many setbacks, one, a tragic one. It's not the same. It's not. And I'm sure people say the same thing about Pink Floyd. Well, no Roger Waters. It's not Pink Floyd. No Sid Barrett. That's not Pink Floyd. No Freddie Mercury. That's not Queen. Um, I don't know. No Ozzy Osbourne. No Black Sabbath. No Brad Delp. And this is the one I most associate with the other band, not because they're similar in style, but because the band was so identified with the lead, the front man, the lead singer, the multi-instrumentalist, co-lyricist. No Brad Delp, no Boston. No matter how much Tom Scholz wants you to think otherwise, I got the same vibe from seeing this other band. I wish them well. I wish them so much success. But they're not the band to me that I fell in love with. And that's hard. I mean, I knew it. I knew it was going to happen. And I knew the way I'd felt when I found out their front man had passed away. And I knew it after they lost 4 previous members. You change up a band that much, and what are you left with exactly? It could be something new and great, and that's what I hope this is for them. That's what I hope it is for them. I wish them nothing but success. It's not the same for me. Man, that's hard. That's hard to take, especially when I spent an evening talking with people who were so enthused and so happy to see the band and knowing exactly what I know, that they came through a tragedy and they came through a bunch of personnel changes and they came through the COVID bug that we all came through. and they finally made it to the United States after trying to make their way in Europe and especially in the UK. I understand all of that. And yet it's not the same. As always, your mileage may vary, and I'm sure it will vary greatly between me and the rest of fandom out there. And I totally get it. I totally get it. All of you have a safe journey out there. Enjoy the ride. Love y'all.